Hi guys, I hope everybody's having a good week, whether it be at work or your practicum. I know I've had a super busy week, so I figured Monday was probably my busiest day so far this week, and a lot of what happened Monday has continued to kind of fall out through the last couple days. So I figured I'd talk about what I did Monday, because I met a lot with the other counselors in my department, which was helpful, and I kind of learned a lot in that day too. Um, so first thing Monday morning, I got there. I had a student who has been in and out of SLPC since the beginning of the school year. She's probably spent more time there than she has in our school, which is sad. She has a really rough home life. A lot of siblings. Mom just doesn't really care about much. She's abusive, both physically and verbally. She's been hotlined multiple times for all of her kids. Um, so when her daughter goes into the psych center, she doesn't really um, talk to any of us about it. She doesn't communicate with the coordinators over there. She's not worried about picking her up. She never shows up on time to pick her up. So this girl has a rough time. And because of that, she comes back to us and continues to get in trouble, just because she has no coping skills. Her life is a mess outside of school. And I do feel bad for her, even though she is a really hard student to work with. So she came in Monday morning wanting to spend first period in my office, to eat her breakfast. So I said to her, I think you have class right now. Like, what are you doing here? And she was like, I'm not going to class. I want to sit here and work on an essay I've been writing for myself on what I've been through the last couple months. And I said, I don't think that's going to work out. Like, you need to go to class. Like, I can't let you skip class. You need to be there. So she wasn't happy with me, but I gave her a pass and sent her to class. I watched her walk down there. I thought she had walked in the room, and I had asked the teacher to let me know if she didn't show up. So I get a call, not that period, but 2 periods later, from the teacher saying, Olivia never showed up, and in fact, I haven't seen her since November. And I was like, since November? Like, I know she's been gone a lot, but she's also been here a good amount of time. So I started backtracking, and I was like, all right, last week she was out of school suspension for getting in a fight. The week before that, she had a couple days out of school suspension for getting in another fight. But there are plenty of days where she should have been here. Um, so that was kind of an issue I had to bring up with student affairs, because we kind of had to figure out where she's been and what we're going to do for her skipping all of this. After that, it was something I brought up to our department, because I was like, this girl's been skipping for how long, and it's kind of gone unnoticed. Like, the teacher hasn't reported it. Like, how many other kids are doing this? Like, what is going on? Um, so we kind of talked about how that needs to be addressed, because we can't have kids just wandering around school. Because she's present in other classes, so we know she's here, but she's just picking and choosing what classes she wants to go to and what ones she doesn't want to go to. So that was the beginning of my day. From there, I had another student come in who's been doing awesome. She isn't a mandated counseling student, but she comes in a lot. She sees a counselor outside of school. She has a lot of sports related anxiety. She does track right now, and the big crowds there really stress her out. She's a very good athlete, but she kind of needs help getting through, um, getting outside of her own head and being able to perform with all those people in there. So I've been working with her the last couple of weeks. And she's been doing a lot better. She's finding some ways to cope with all of this that's been helping her. Listening to music. She's got a couple apps that she likes to listen to and focus on in between her events, so that she's not consumed with how many people are there and who's watching me and all this stuff. And she's actually broken all of her PRs lately, which is awesome. So that was really exciting news in the middle of all the other stuff that I had dealt with that morning. Let's see. Um, so from there, the in-school suspension room teacher sent me an email and said, I have a student in here. He's here because he walked out of school the other day. He wants to talk to you. Can you come down and talk to him? So there's a little room off the side of that classroom. I went in there and I just kind of asked him what was up, and he is a very likable student. He wants to do well. He comes from a home that nobody has ever graduated from high school. A lot of them don't have jobs. If they do, they're one cleans at a hotel, the other one is like a chef or helps in the kitchen at a restaurant. And he just said to me, he was like, Miss Newman, I'm really having a hard time finding motivation to be here. He's like, none of my family's ever done this. Nobody is at home pushing me to come here. And besides all the stress from school, I have to go home and take care of my little siblings so my dad can go to work and try to provide the best he can, which unfortunately isn't that great lately, as we've had a lot of supports in and out of his family, getting them heating, electricity, food, clothing. We helped with their Christmas, so he has a lot going on. So I feel for him and I want to help him. And he's a student who wants to do well. And he reached out to me and said, "What do I like? I need motivation. Can you help me find this?" So we talked through some things. And one of the resources we had talked about was Liberty Partnership. Liberty Partnership, we have this lady, her name is Emily. She comes in and she works with kids on a lot of different things. So she helps them get on track academically. She can help them get paid internships outside of school. She brings kids on college trips, kind of anything we can do to keep students in school. She's kind of their support. So we talked about that and how he was excited to do that, but he was having a hard time getting Dad to sign the permission slip to do that. So I kind of told him, I'll help you. We'll talk to Dad. Emily can also go over there and help figure that out. So I left that feeling pretty good, and I saw him again today, and he said, I got my permission slip in. I've been here the last couple of days. I haven't walked out. I'm feeling pretty good about things. So that was good news to help him, and I really hope that he can get some connections at school that'll keep him here, whether it be clubs or playing sports or just with Liberty Partnership. So let's see. From there, I had a CSE meeting, which was kind of a complicated one. We have a student who had been with us in 7th and part of 8th grade. He was adopted in 6th grade. Before that, he had a really awful home life. Both his parents were addicted to heroin, I believe, in and out of prison. They kind of abandoned them, and at the age of 4, he was taking care of 3 little siblings and trying to do what he could as a little kid to keep what he knew how to together, if that makes sense. So he's really always had a troubled life. His adoptive mom took him in, and she's an elderly lady. This kid was kind of a little out of control, had a lot of anger, didn't trust people very easily, and started becoming very aggressive toward his adoptive mom. Because she is older, she had a very hard time controlling him. So he ended up getting placed in a residential facility where he has been for probably the last year and a half. So usually when we have kids come from residential facilities, they don't really have that much schooling that comes in with them. Luckily, he has been attending a public school, while he's been there, so that's helpful to know. He has a 504 plan, so we were kind of trying to figure that out, like how many resource periods does he need, what are his other accommodations, extended time on tests, test read, all of that. And what we found out is that while he was at this other school, he had a 504, but they don't do resource for kids with 504, which is something that was new to me. I was kind of like, wait, is that like okay? Like, is that a thing? You can do that? And apparently you can, even though it's really not in the best interest of the student. So we said to Mom, how has he been doing without these resources to him? Without having extended time, all that. And she said, he's only passing 1 class. So that to me was like kind of a crazy realization that not all schools have to implement these resources when a student has a 504. They just have to when they have an IEP. So that was an interesting part of that. So from there, we kind of just figured out how many resources he was going to need, what resource room teacher would be the best fit for him, what classes he was going to be in, and all of that. And then we set him up to come in the next 2 days to shadow a student, because this is a new school. Massena's big, it's confusing. And with the behavioral issues and everything else we have going on, we just want to make sure he's comfortable here. So we set that up, and he's coming in tomorrow and Friday, I believe, to shadow. So we'll see how that goes and take that from there. So the last thing that I did on Monday, and it kind of consumed my whole day and has carried over to the last couple of days as well, I had one of our teachers bring me a student whose face was red, swollen, and her eye was black. At first, she wasn't giving much information, but the teacher was able to make a pretty good connection with her, and just asked her what happened. And what came out was that the girl was at her father's house, who doesn't have any custody of her. She was there to pick some stuff up that she had left from being there from a birthday party the week before. And her uncle was there. They have a new puppy, and the puppy was barking. The uncle asked this girl to make the dog stop barking, because it was her dog, apparently. So she said, what do you want me to do? I can't get the dog to stop barking. The uncle got very angry and hit her across the face, and that's where all of this came from. So I talked to her for a while, kind of got all the information with that, made sure she was safe to go home, because it was toward the end of the day. And then from there, I checked in with all the other counselors in the office just to give them a little background. Because what I found when I went to go make the hotline was that her father is not on any of her school records. She's been adopted by her grandfather. Her dad has no rights to visitation, custody, any of that. So I was kind of like, how do I proceed with this? She doesn't live with him. He's not a caregiver for her. So I kind of talked to the other counselors, and they said that one of them had just had a similar situation. She hotlined it, and then they kind of told her where to go from there. So that's what I ended up doing. I hotlined it, and from there they said, because he's not a caregiver, it's not a CPS related case. So they handed it over to state police. And from there, I've had multiple calls back and forth with state police the last couple of days, kind of trying to get all the information. It came out the next day from the same teacher that this girl had a friend with her who the uncle also hit, so that added a whole new element of it. We had to contact that girl's parents, and then that mom had to decide how she was going to handle it, if she was going to go to the police, what she was going to do with that. So that part was kind of on her, because after I tell her that, that's her decision to make. But that's been an ongoing thing that we've been dealing with all week now, and it's still going. So I'm interested to see where it ends up, because I know some of her family was just trying to say she got hit in the face with a toy, but the girl was pretty upset with it, because her dad saw that happened to her. Why would her dad ever let that happen to her, and all of that. So that was a really long situation that took a lot of my time on Monday, and it kind of took a lot of people to help figure out what the best plan of attack was with it. The other thing that I did do during that was during the hotline, because it was reported to a different teacher, not myself, from the student. They are technically a mandated reporter too. So a lot of times teachers don't know that even though they hand it over to guidance, they're still the mandated reporter, and they still need to be making the report. So I had to get that other teacher and walk them through how to do a hotline with the paperwork that goes with it. So that was my day on Monday. At the end of the day, I sat through another meeting with the English department, kind of discussing credits with Bob, who's my supervisor of my practicum. Because we have some students that are doubled up right now and taking one course during the day and another one 3 to 5 because they got held back. So that was how my day ended. Um,